So guys, I have conjunctivitis, so I'll be wearing sunglasses in the next few videos. I hope that's all right. Now in today's video, I want to talk to you about WebRTC. Now to understand WebRTC more, we'll have to also understand WebSockets more. So we've seen WebSockets already, but let's try to understand the shortcomings and why we need something like WebRTC and what WebRTC is used in the first place for. So I wanted to share something really interesting with you. A few months back, I started running an advanced system design cohort, which is specifically meant for people with industry experience who want to break into engineering leadership positions. So if you want to be a director of engineering, VP of engineering, or want a CXO title, you'd want to know a lot more about system design from the application perspective. And just the basics of system design, DSA, and coding will not cut it. You'll need to understand systems from end to end. You'll need to become an expert at architecting systems, understanding how things scale, and how to plan better for bigger, much more scalable products. And this is what we break down in my 3-month advanced system design cohort. There are 20 people already in the cohort. Some of them even have 25 years of experience in the industry. So if you think you've hit the limit in your system design learning and you want to take things to the next level and deeply connect with people who are just like you, people with great industry experience and exposure, wanting to move on to the leadership positions, you might want to check out my cohort. The link for the form is in the description of this video. Fill it up, we'll check if you're a good fit, and then we'll set up a call with you, and then we'll take things forward. Now let's get back to the video. So for WebSockets, they enable real-time communication through servers. So you have a person here, they communicate to a server, and the server is also connected to another person. So now these two people can communicate very easily with each other using WebSockets. Now this facilitates real-time communication. You know that we use it for chat, we use it sometimes for videos as well, video calling. And this is how WebSockets work. So there's a handshake, there are then these bidirectional messages, and you can close the connection whenever you want. So you have to basically keep a connection open between the two peers, and the connection is opened with the help of a server in between. And when you compare it with HTTP, the reason WebSocket is so great is because you just send one request, and then once WebSocket accepts, you can start sending bidirectional messages very easily because the connection is open for this entire duration. Whereas with HTTP, you close the connection with each response, and then you initiate another connection. Whereas with WebSocket, the connection stays open and you can just keep sending messages to each other. And at the end, you can close off the connection. So WebSockets are great for chat, and we've already learned about them. We send messages to a server that mediates between the two clients, and all of this happens in real time. But if we have to build for voice and video calls, now you can do that with WebSockets, but if we truly have to have like really great voice and video call applications, it kind of becomes an issue because sending so much information through servers adds a lot of latency. Imagine sending all of this information to the server and processing it and sending it all again to this another client somewhere. So especially in a two-way real-time call, by the time your video data hits the server and back to your peer, you'll see a significant delay. So it's not the optimum solution because you'll see so much delay because of the presence of this server. So it's not the best for streaming. So even though we had the WebSockets technology, it wasn't the best because internet was changing really fast and you needed like bidirectional video calls in real time and streaming and streaming for gaming. So for all those things, WebSockets wasn't the best. The thing is, WebSockets and WebRTC, they're not like enemies. You kind of use them together in something like an online learning platform. So in an online learning platform, there will be a teacher, there will be many students, and this video call, this conference will be happening using WebRTC, whereas the chatting will be happening using WebSockets. So they kind of go hand in hand. So what's the difference with WebRTC? Firstly, what does it stand for? It stands for Web Real-Time Communications. So this enables live video calls in the browser without third-party support. This is the main selling point. It supports voice calls, video conferencing, and live screen sharing, and supports peer-to-peer data channels like for gaming, for file transferring, right, in real time. So how does it work? Why is it so much better than WebSockets for streaming, for peer-to-peer data channels, for video conferencing? Why is it so much better for live screen sharing, right? All the applications where you share your screen and where you collaborate on, let's say, something like Figma or some kind of a data diagramming website. All of this is happening through WebRTC. So why is it so much better for this use case? It's because with WebRTC, there is no server in between. You're forming the connection between the two peers directly. So it only requires servers initially because obviously the server will know the address of the other peer. So I'll take you through this complete system of how it works. But for now, you just need to understand that WebRTC only requires servers initially to establish connection between the two clients. But once established, no servers are required and complete communication can happen between the clients. And WebRTC uses UDP. And that's why it's not supported by browsers like IE and Safari, whereas with Google Chrome, you don't have any problems. So we've learned about UDP, we learned about how awesome it is, and now WebRTC uses that. That means it's already by default really good for streaming and video conferencing and video calls kind of purposes, right? It's already really good for it. But add to that this feature of direct communication between peers, it just makes it so much better. Now let's go through this, okay? So how WebRTC works. Now there is the peer here, there's another peer here, and you have something called as a signaling server and something called as a stun turn server. Now, this is something we'll be digging down deeper into in the next video, how stun, turn, and ice work. So for now, just understand that this is something that helps establish connection between the peers directly. First, you just need the signaling server between them to help establish the connection. Once the connection is established, you can keep having the communication between the two peers unobstructed, okay? So you use something called as a session description protocol, SDP. It is metadata about a media session. So the connection it sends the connection info, the media types like audio, video, data. So you don't have to have like just a video call. You can have an audio plus video call, right? Or audio plus video plus data call if you're supposed to share your screen and then also collaborate on some kind of a canvas, right? Which Google, for example, Google Meet or Zoom allows you to do. So you can specify what kind of a call you want to have. And then it also includes your encryption keys and your codec supported. So all of that, the connection establishment is being done by the signaling server that we talked about. So it's only required when two peers need to connect with each other. And after that, the communication can happen between the two peers once the connection has been established. So if you just wanted to visualize how the connection is started, let's say you had Alice and Bob. Now you had all this information and then Alice could create this new SDP offer. SDP, as we discussed, is the session description protocol. This is defining how the communication would be between them. So Alice makes an offer and Bob, after processing it, sends the answer. After this, they're able to establish the connection and the WebRTC communication can start. And as we've already seen, the signaling server is the one that's facilitating all of this. So a quick recap, WebRTC enables peers to directly communicate with each other. It's based on UDP. That's why it's really great for video calling, video communication. And because there are no servers in between, you can do really great streaming and collaborative applications without a lot of delay. And you just need the servers in the beginning to establish the connection that we have seen with SDP. Once it's done, once you've defined the nature of the connection, like audio, video, data, or the keys, encryption keys during the session, and the codecs. After that, the peers can take everything between each other forward, and they can keep continuing the communication until the time you switch off or close the connection. So now we have learned a bit about WebRTC, and in the next video, I want to dig down deeper into the turn and stun servers, because they kind of play an important part in this whole thing. So I hope you're excited, and I'll see you in the next one.